The information in this lecture is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to substitute for the advice provided by your doctor or other healthcare professionals. You should not rely upon or follow the program or techniques or use any of the products and services made available by or through the lecture without obtaining the advice of a physician or other healthcare professional. The nutritional and other information in this lecture are not intended to be and do not constitute healthcare or medical advice.
Who was at the last broth meeting? Just a few of you. Good, all right. Well, I did try and change it up a little, but not too much, because I don't know how much you can say about broth. There's not a lot to change. So we're going to start with some of the reasons what's in broth, why you want to drink it, some of the health benefits of broth. Then Ben is going to show us how he amazingly cuts up chicken with a little knife, right? And then we'll talk about, I brought in this pot what I make my bone broth with, so we can show you what I do, and we can talk about what you guys do, and we can share ideas and things like that. I don't use this pot, but I wasn't going to bring my big heavy pot. It was too much. So broth is a traditional food. It's a staple food in many, many cultures. Traditionally, primitive cultures ate from nose to tail. They ate everything on the body, so except for the fur, basically. In some way, shape, or form, we used bones, whether you made broth out of it or you ground the bones into a powder and consumed that in your food. Many Asian cultures will still to this very day, they fry baby chicks, deep fry them and batter them and eat them whole. They are loaded with nutrition, lots of everything that's in bone, collagen, everything you would want is in that little baby chick. I've been meaning to look up the name of it, but in the Philippines there's a traditional dish which is 17-day-old hard-boiled duck embryos. So it's a hard-boiled egg. It takes 20...
It's palu.
Palu, that's it. I saw it on one of the...
Palu.
Palu, very common food. Hard-boiled 17-day-old duck embryo palu. And it's very nutritious. So traditional cultures all knew intuitively that eating the whole animal was very good for you. Today, if you watch the Today Show or anything on nutrition, it's lean meat. That's it, muscle meat. We have an abundance of those amino acids. Protein there's a 22 or 23 amino acids, I never remember. There's a certain amount of amino acids, and the muscle meat contains a lot of different amino acids that are different from that cartilage and the bone. And we have an abundance of the methionine type amino acids that are in muscle meat and tryptophan. We have way too much of that and hardly any of those amino acids that come from bones and cartilage and stuff like that. And we need to eat more of this. Traditional cultures always did. And broth is a American palatable way that, with our, we would not probably have deep fried baby chicks, on a stick.
The fair next year.
Okay, let's go to the fair. With chocolate.
Okay, all right, that would be good. But even chicken feet. People eat everything, and and this is a way you don't have to do that. You can make a good broth and get a lot of that good nutrition that way, and it's delicious. Good broths are delicious. So convenience broths are not the same thing. What you can buy at the grocery store is often, it could have some broth in it, but it's going to be watered down and chemically added to most often. It has MSG in it and other thickeners. Maybe it's got guar gum in it and other stabilizers. It's not true homemade broth. There's such a difference between a nice homemade broth and a canned broth. And I don't know what's in the organic broths that you can get, but I don't think it's nearly as good as what you could make. And anytime you can something, you are denaturing it a little bit. So canning is okay. One of these days I'm going to get to my lecture on some of the problems with canning. But I don't if it's here and there a little bit, but canning can denature foods, and so anytime you put in that kind of a package, it can be denatured a little bit. So what is it about broth that's good? Well, it is an excellent source of minerals. We need minerals in our diet for good health. We need calcium, magnesium, sodium, all trace minerals. And broth has not everything, but the minerals that you need for healthy bones and healthy ligaments are in a broth. Not so much calcium. You don't get as much calcium in that broth as we once thought. There's about 60 to 80 milligrams of calcium in a cup of broth. And there's probably 3 times that much in a cup of milk. So if you can tolerate dairy, you should consume some dairy. Raw is always better. Grass-fed is always better. But you're not going to get all the calcium you need from broth. But it has magnesium, it has sodium, it has phosphorus, it has potassium, and trace minerals. And many people think, and doctors seem to think, all you need is calcium, and they prescribe 1,200 milligrams of calcium, and that's it, you have healthy bones now. And it's actually, I don't think that's good at all. There are some doctors who are finally realizing you cannot take high doses of calcium. Studies have shown that women who took high doses, bless you, of calcium have higher incidence of heart disease, stroke, and it is quite dangerous. And this isn't the talk we're talking about, but I'm going to briefly say you need your fat-soluble vitamins all together. Vitamin A, D, and K2 you need together. Vitamin D helps put calcium, or helps you absorb that calcium. So if you're taking high doses of calcium without vitamin D, it's not going to get you, you're not going to absorb it very well. Without, you need vitamin A just to balance because they should be taken together and they prevent toxicity of each other. A and D prevent toxicity of each other. And K2 puts that calcium into bones and teeth. So you can take high doses of D and high doses of calcium, and you will absorb all that calcium, but much of it could get deposited into soft tissue, including your arteries. So this is why high doses of calcium causes strokes and heart disease, and more people seem to, and they're starting to pull away from giving that kind of a prescription to women, but it's still done all the time. But that's I'm not here to talk a lot about the fat-soluble vitamins, but just so you know, if you're going to take lots of calcium, make sure you get some K2 in you also, so that you can get it in supplement form. It comes in nice, rich grass-fed butter, goose liver, things like that, to get your calcium, or to put that calcium where you want it and put it into bones and teeth and not into your soft tissue. So also, a lot of leafy greens have calcium. You can get your some of your calcium that way. A great thing to do if you tolerate it, and it's something that I like to eat, is I take my broth and I put all sorts of greens in it. I also whip an egg into it, and that is a meal. Now, if you want, you can add dairy to it, some creme fraiche, or some raw milk, or some raw cream, if you tolerate it. But I don't, I'm lactose intolerant, so I just put greens and an egg into a bowl. I whip up, I don't even heat the egg. If the broth is hot, I whip it up, put it in my greens, and let it wilt for a couple minutes, let it cool down a little bit, and eat that. It's a quick, easy meal. You're going to get a lot more nutrition. Your calcium will be in some of those greens, and now you've got a more nutritious and more minerals. So the minerals in broth are more bioavailable. You can take supplements and that you may not absorb them. A lot of people, when I talk to them, they're saying, yeah, I take magnesium, and I'm like, well, what form? And they show me their bottle, they don't even know, and it's magnesium oxide. Well, magnesium oxide is very, very poorly absorbed and basically just causes diarrhea. You don't absorb much of it at all. So you have to kind of know a little bit more about your supplements when you're taking them, and minerals. Some forms are better absorbed than others, but nothing is better than the actual food. So that broth is going to give you minerals that you can actually use.
Can I ask one quick
Yeah.
question about the calcium? Am I causing myself problems by taking rinsed and baked eggshells and putting it in with my bone broth when I'm cooking it down? Because
don't think
they
so.
break down,
I don't
pretty
think so.
thoroughly.
That's a good form of calcium.
Okay.
I think that might be an absorbable form. It's like people used to grind bone.
Yeah, because they literally disappear.
Yeah, if they absorb in, if you ground it and then they absorb right into the broth, I think you're fine. You know, as long as you have some vitamin D in you and some K2 also, you know. So if you're going to take any calcium supplements, make sure you have some K2 also, or a source of it. So broth is an excellent source of gelatin. Who makes broth here? Gosh, awesome. Okay, so you know you're trying to get that broth to gel. So what is that gelatin? Gelatin is cooked collagen. So what is collagen? Collagen is basically everywhere in your body. I think about 25% of your body is made up of the protein in your body is collagen. And it is your cartilage. It's in your cartilage. It's in your ligaments. It's in your hair. It's in your nails. It's in your skin. You have layers of collagen in your skin. It is the connective tissue that holds your organs in place. It's everywhere in your body, and you want healthy collagen. So the best way to keep it healthy is to feed it the ingredients it needs to make more collagen, and that will come from a gelatinous broth. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Sorry, go ahead.
I have a genetic defect in my collagen, and so I just, when we were talking about what collagen is, the way that we frequently talk about it, medically referring to my condition, is that it's the glue that holds your body together. But I just wanted to add that it's like in all of your organs too. So your stomach and every major organ in your body, and so keeping it healthy.
It's in your bones. 28% of your bone is collagen. So, I mean, it's not just your cartilage between your knees and hips, you know. So what collagen is are these collagen. First, you have these cartilage and stuff like that are these fibers, and these collagenous fibers that are like helixes or springs, and that helps to give that collagen, the tendon, the ligament, the connective tissue, your skin, flexibility and strength. So you can compress and expand that a little bit. You wouldn't want it to be rigid, or you would, it'd be hard like bone. And believe it or not, your bones have some flexibility. When you jump, when your 6-year-old jumps, that bone needs to give a little bit, or it would shatter. If it didn't have a little bit of give in it, it would shatter. You don't feel the give, but because of the collagen in there, it gives. Yes?
Can I add to that? In the childhood, you kind of see, or maybe hearing about a lot of kids who are having pure breaks in their bones. And I wonder if this had to do, my daughter fell off like a 5-foot platform in 1st grade, and she had a green stick fracture. So she didn't need any surgery. She didn't need anything. So it basically, her arm was bent. You could see it. But it didn't break through and through. And it was my understanding that that's the way bones are supposed to break. I mean, she had a
especially in children.
Fall,
yes.
That it was supposed to break. I mean, there's no other, but it's not supposed to break through and through. And we had a friend whose daughter twice fell off of monkey bars, needed multiple pins, multiple things. I have another friend whose daughter 3 times now has fractured for very little reason.
Yes.
And I think it's just because of the lack of
I agree.
And nutrients. And
2 or 3 of my boys play lacrosse and soccer. They're in college now. And they never injured themselves. Oh, they have been kicked and things like that, but they never sprained an ankle, twisted anything, broke anything. And I don't knock on wood. They don't, but, well, they could now because they eat like crap now, in college. But when they were growing up, all their friends were getting injured playing their sports. And it's not to say that, I could feed them the best diet in the world, and it can still happen, and it does. It's just less likely, and they were more resilient, and I'm grateful for that. And that's the same thing with the cod liver oil. I'm just going to say, I had my kids on cod liver oil since they were like 2 years old, when as soon as I could get it in them properly. And all 3 of my boys never needed braces. You know, it is worth every penny, you know, in my opinion, to feed them well and not spend $5,000-$6,000 on braces if you don't have to. Yeah.
I'm just curious, how many cavities did they get? Did they get a lot or any?
No, not at all. No,
That's awesome.
no. My oldest was told he had teeth people pay thousands of dollars for. You know, I think he had one cavity, you know. So no, I mean, they've been great. Now, forget it, you know. They're in college. You know what that's like. You know? Okay, so what else is in cartilage and collagen? You've got the springs, those fibers that form springs, and then interspersed in those springs are these proteoglycans or glycosaminoglycans. And you're like, oh, that's a big word. What are those? Well, you've heard of them all. That's just a fancy name for them. You've heard of chondroitin sulfate, glucosamine, keratin sulfate, and hyaluronic acid. These are molecules. They are proteoglycans. They're protein and sugar molecules. And they are very negatively charged, which makes them hydrophilic. Does anyone know what hydrophilic means? It means it attracts water, which is like, it's why when you take gelatin powder, like Jello or Knox gelatin, add water, heat it, and it turns into a gelatin. That's what all of those proteoglycans are. They are hydrophilic. They attract water. So they intersperse all amongst those fibers and gel, and also give that tissue more cushion, a little bit more flexibility, and padding. Okay, so if it was just the fibers, it wouldn't be as padded. Now that gives that knee joint more padding, that hip joint more padding, and all of them have different levels of different proteoglycans depending, and that's too much detail. This just is Sally Fallon's book, Nourishing Broth. Excellent book. All that detail of which hyaluronic acid is more abundant in your skin, and glucosamine is abundant in, I forget where, so it's in here though. Mm-hmm. So, you should really get this book. The second half of the book is all different recipes, traditional recipes, and the first half explains very easy to read terms, everything, a lot of what I'm saying. So it's an excellent, excellent book. So you want that gel also. So what broth is obviously then very good for your skin. Without it, you would have, it would be as thin as paper. And as we age, we don't rebuild our cartilage and collagen, I should say, our collagen as easily as we did when we were younger. When you're younger, you need an abundance of it because you're growing so fast. And when you are aging, which is really always, but the older we get, the harder it is, which is why you see elderly people with really thin, paper-thin skin that almost looks like you could tear it. And there's no give to it. So when you do this, it stays up. And that is in part due to a lack of collagen in the skin now. And so as you get older, you really should pick up the pace of how much broth you're eating and how many sources of that kind of food you're getting in your diet, so that you age a little bit better. And yeah, maybe the cosmetic it's important, but it is important to have, walk without pain and not have paper thin skin. But for the cosmetic wrinkles, reasons you'll wrinkle less if you have, and not that you're going to stop the aging process, but you will wrinkle less if you have a lot of collagen in your diet or a lot of broth. Cellulite, believe it or not, is in part at least due to a lack of the collagen fibers that are in your skin. Women get 90% of all the cellulite, and men, only about 10% of men have cellulite, and that is in part because we form different types of collagen fibers. So women form these linear fibers, and the fibers prevent the fat from dimpling up and through. So if you have very weak fibers, more fat is going to be able to dimple through. We also have like 3 layers of fat, more than men, so we have more fat to dimple through. So even thin women can form cellulite. You don't have to be heavy. It's not a thing about weight. It's about I'm sure there's a genetic component, but there's also a dietary component, and that is weak collagen. And men make a crisscross pattern of collagen, so it's less likely to dimple. That fat's less likely to dimple through. So eating lots of broth and lots of gelatin in your diet, and you will have less cellulite. Then stretch marks also. Your skin has to stretch. If you gain weight or you have a baby, many women will form stretch marks. And again, it could be hereditary. It could be like genetically you're not as able to make collagen as readily, or your skin doesn't have receptors for it. Who knows? I mean, I was so surprised to find out that there are genetic differences in how we all detoxify mercury. I mean, some people are great at it, and some people are horrible at it. And it is a genetic thing that you can find out in a test. So there could be a genetic thing about how well your skin can make collagen fibers, but you still want to give it your best and make as much healthy fiber as possible so that you don't form as many stretch marks. So gelatin is great for your skin. Like I said, bones are also really good. It's in your bones, so if you want to prevent breakages, you still need to have healthy. You need a lot of cartilage or collagen in your bones. Infections. It used to be called Jewish penicillin. Good broth was Jewish penicillin. Where your grandmother, or at least my grandmother, if you got sick, you got broth. You know, I grew up with my Polish grandmother living with us. And I grew up, luckily, not knowing any of this, but she made chicken stock all the time. It was in the outside garage refrigerator, and she made her own noodles, which was fantastic. And I know a lot of people are gluten-free now, but back then it didn't matter. And she made her own noodles, and I would take a big bowl of noodles and pour the broth over that. We heat it up. It was delicious. But if you were sick, that is what you got, is a nice bowl of broth. And this was a traditional food, and it still is in many cultures. Broth is for convalescing. One, because it's really good for digestion. It is sometimes all you can digest. It's so, because it's hydrophilic, because it attracts water, it attracts digestive juices. It also helps your body to make more digestive juices. So anything that is difficult for you to digest, beans, grains, that you might want to even if they're soaked and fermented, adding broth to it will make it more digestible. But it also is good for infections. There is this, Dr. Arthur Johnson wrote, he's from the University of Minnesota in Duluth, that he was doing lots of studies recently, maybe the last 10 years, on bovine cartilage. He says it's a true biological response modifier, meaning it increases the ability of white blood cells to destroy bacteria and viruses. So who wouldn't want that? So it truly is, penicillin in a way. It will help destroy bacteria and viruses. It also activates macrophages, and macrophages are those white blood cells that go scouting around looking for foreign bodies to engulf and eat up and get rid of. So it activates broth. A good broth and gelatin will activate those macrophages, and it also ignites cytotoxic T cells, or they're called killer T cells. And killer T cells will kill bacteria, viruses, and fungi. They produce interferons that inhibit viral replication also. So it is excellent for your immune system. So will you never get sick? No. But will you fight it off more quickly? Will you get over your cold in a couple of days instead of a week? Probably, if you drink a lot of broth when you're sick. Now I want to talk about some things that have come up in the last year. Last year, if I brought the right one, Stephanie Seneff, in this wise tradition, it's winter of 2016. So if you're not members of the National Weston A. Price Foundation, I think it's $45, and you get a quarterly magazine. This magazine every, 4 times every 3 months. Yeah, thank you. And the conference is coming up in November, so look into it. Do you remember where it is? It's in Minnesota. It's in Minnesota this year.
Does it ever come over this way?
Huh?
Does it ever come here to stay?
We had maybe 8 years ago, there was one in Buffalo. They try and switch off from East Coast, Midwest and West Coast and rotate around. So I think this is actually the East Coast one. Is it? What was it last year?
Minnesota
The
would
middle.
be, yeah.
No, Minnesota would be mid.
Alabama was
Last year was Alabama, that was the East Coast one, yeah. So, anyway, so Stephanie Seneff wrote an article about how glyphosate is in gelatin and how damaging it is. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. It is a toxic chemical sprayed on our food supply. It's a weed killer, and she's wrote this article how it's taking the place of glycine. And glycine is one of the main amino acids in collagen. Collagen is glycine, proline, alanine, and hydroxyproline. 50% of collagen's amino acids, or those protein molecules, is glycine. And how glyphosate is taking place of the place of glycine in that molecule and damaging collagen. So you really do want to be very careful. She talks about when you are eating those supplements and you buy your supplements to get the gelatin-free supplements. The other kinds are made with cellulose, and that would be the better kind. She's like, it is bad enough that it will inhibit the effects of the supplement that you're taking. So try and get the gelatin-free supplements for that reason, because there's glyphosate in it. So
is that because the Roundup is in the corn that's fed to the beef that they make the gelatin?
yeah.
I was just curious, is there such thing as organic gelatin supplements or organic?
Well, sure, as much as you can. You can buy organic supplements, so they will have, if they use gelatin, they'll be made from organic, sources, I would hope.
Okay. Speaking of which, just to let everybody know, the glyphosate you can actually test for it now. It's through the detox.org, I think.
You can test for it now?
Yeah, you used to not be able to,
Yeah.
but I'm actually in the beta. I signed up for it, and then they actually offer a test for it for now. It's like, I think it's $100, and then once you submit your test for it, and then they're gonna do other tests with it. It's kind of like 23andMe.
Oh, right.
So it's really cool.
Do you have where's that from?
I'll look it up. I actually have the email for it. It's pretty interesting. You have to sign up to be able to get the test. Let's see here. I just had it.
Testing. What are we testing for?
Glyphosate.
It's called the Detox Project, and the URL is detoxproject.org.
Detoxproject.org.
Right, and then you have to sign up for the email to get the offer for the beta
very
testing,
cool.
because they're not offering to the public yet. They will be offering it to the public in the near future, but preemptively they're offering it, I think, discounted to people.
Wow,
So.
awesome. Good to know. So just watch out for that. Also, collagen is has anyone ever heard of advanced glycation end products? This is when sugar kind of gloms up with proteins and it doesn't combine properly, and it makes a mess, and I meant to get the exact definition before I left.
If you're diabetic, if you're diabetic, that's exactly what your H1A1C is.
Exactly. Damaged proteins from sugar. Let's just put it simply that way, okay? And the most susceptible form of protein to damage from sugar is collagen. It is 7 times more readily damaged than any other type of protein in your body. So you want to, since we're talking about having healthy collagen, healthy joints, healthy connective tissue, decreasing the amount of sugar in your diet will keep your collagen, your skin, your joints, your connective tissue healthier. So just so you know, it is much more readily damaged than any other form of protein, in your body by sugar.
Fruit sugars even?
Huh?
Even fruit sugars?
Every form of sugar. Yep. And so carbohydrates in general, like carbohydrates. So I'm not telling everyone to do a low carb diet. I'm just saying watch your sugar.
But it is basically, if I may, it is basically your body's response to an ongoing or an excess amount of sugar in your body. It's trying to catch the sugar so it doesn't react in other ways, so it ends up reacting how she said.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your body, it's kind of like your body being overzealous to heal a cut or something. If
Or
you
it's
keep
preventing that sugar from circulating.
Yeah, because people have high levels of sugar for long periods of time, because we all live an American sad diet,
Mm-hmm.
and that's your body's for lack of a better way to put it, it's trying to catch that and get it out of your bloodstream where it's most toxic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it will damage those proteins and combine with them improperly, so they don't function as well. Collagen is the most readily, it's most susceptible to sugar damage, basically, or AGEs. They're called AGEs, advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. So, and then those of you who weren't here last time, and anybody can take one of these anyway, or in fact I'll pass them around, and just throw a bunch in each row. And this is an article I found last year. And I have more. I passed it down and around, and I think there's more in my bag. I found this article last year on the dangers of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Does anybody know what those are?
And ibuprofen, Advil.
Ibuprofen, Advil, diclofenac. Am I saying? Or maybe it's. Oops.
That stuff can cause leaky gut.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Also, aspirin is. There's a list here. Let's see. Okay, aspirin, Celebrex, Voltaren, Lodine, Nelflin, Advil, Idocin. Oh my gosh, naproxen. All not diclofenac. That's a antifungal. All these NSAIDs are damaging your cartilage. You have cells called chondrocytes, and chondrocytes are, regulate cartilage metabolism. These are the cells that help you make more cartilage, and they regulate the manufacture of those proteoglycans, that protein sugar molecule, those glucosamines and things like that. And they help build new cartilage as necessary. What these NSAIDs do is damage these chondrocytes and inhibit their production of proteoglycans and these collagen fibers. And in fact, they can even kill the chondrocytes. So within this was a study in a journal I found last year, and it was a 19-page article, so I couldn't print up 19-page articles for all of you, but you can, obviously you have the source, you can look and read the whole article, but these were the highlights. They did studies on knees and hips, and they took groups of people who got NSAIDs, one specifically, I don't remember, and those who got a placebo or got Tylenol. And the damage that was done within like 3-4 months, I read exactly what it was. Complete blockade of the synthesis of proteoglycans and collagen of the collagen matrix was induced. It can induce progressive joint degeneration within 3 to 4 months. Animal studies show cytotoxicity and cell death of chondrocytes within 24 hours of taking an NSAID. So we all take, well, not us, but many of us take NSAIDs like candy. It's if you watch the ads on TV, I woke up with a sore back, so I took Advil, and I felt great all day long. And I had to do some gardening today, and now I'm so sore, so I took, Advil. And every time you do that, you are damaging your cartilage. Doctors prescribe it for osteoarthritis, and you are, according to this article, they want a major warning on all over-the-counter ibuprofen bottles and aspirin bottles and prescription, stating that you are rapidly progressing the progression of this disease, osteoarthritis, which is degradation of the cartilage in your joints, by taking any NSAID. And doctors don't know this at all. We all have heard that it can damage your stomach and cause ulcers and bleeding in some people, but nobody is aware that it's damaging your cartilage and actually killing the cells that help your body to make and repair cartilage called chondrocytes. So I figured everyone should have this article. Is there enough to go around, or do I need to pull out more? Okay, good. So pass that out to your friends and tell your doctors.
So Tylenol is okay?
Tylenol's okay, but I still don't even like Tylenol because Tylenol is damaging to your liver and it blocks your ability to make glutathione. That's your body's master antioxidant. So what do you do for pain? I don't know. There are lots of other things you can do. We did a class on essential oils. There's infrared light, near infrared light that can help. There's lots of things that can help. Heat can help. Warm packs can help. But I would use it sparingly. I would use it, once or twice, and then for some major injury, and that's it. I wouldn't, use it regularly. Yeah.
Can I make a quick pitch for something from my own experience? I was in a car wreck where I broke my neck last year and I screwed up my back, blown out disc, and then they found all these problems within my disc related to long-term diabetes because it draws that out. But that's not what I want to talk about. You want to know what works? It's funny because you handed out this paper. It says the Journal of Prolotherapy at the bottom.
Yes, prolotherapy works.
I was going through over a year of excruciating pain. Couldn't sit, couldn't stand, couldn't lay down. Just never knew when it was going to hit. It might not go away. I'm going through 9 treatments. I'm on number 7 for my back. From day 1, the pain, it doesn't work for everybody. From day 1, the pain steadily got better. Of course, I did some stupid things and fell and redo it, but it's like a 9-step process. And one of the things that they say, no NSAIDs, like you said, because they're causing a certain kind of inflammation to induce growth. But for pain, I feel like I have to proselytize a little bit there.
Yeah.
Because I take Flexerol on my worst days, and I take nothing else. But otherwise, 5 out of 7 days, I don't need anything. And that's a lot to say with multiple disc problems in your lower back.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
is that therapy?
It's right on the bottom of the
It's
bottom.
prolotherapy.
There's actually a doctor in
Over here.
Buffalo that does it. He actually goes to it. It's strutprolo.com, right?
Write that down, Nicole. Maybe we can call him
That's-
Strut Polo.
I'm
ST.
gonna look it up.
Strut Physical
It's his
Medicine.
last name.
It's RES Physical Medicine.
Yeah.
RES.
Yeah, they also do a marijuana thing. They're pretty popular.
Sure,
that way.
sure.
It's RES Physical Medicine and Rehab. It's at 2560 Wallen Avenue in Buffalo, New York.
But they're moving October 2nd onto Harlem and something.
Website
Out here
is
at Amherst.
yeah. Website is prolostrut.com. So it's
Very cool.
prolostrut.com.
Sorry
Excellent.
to derail you, but when you're talking about pain, that's
Well, yeah, and there's no good solution, but all I can say is that NSAIDs aren't the solution on a chronic basis, and neither is Tylenol on a chronic basis. Occasionally, here and there, 1 or 2 is, all I would promote anyone ever to take. Think about it seriously before you put yourself on. I had a inflamed knee a few years ago, and she put me on 600 milligrams 4 times a day, and I'm like, no. And she's like, and this is before I even knew that. I just don't want to take it. And I said, nope, not doing it. She was like, why not? I'm like, it's not good for you. She's like, I'm like, sorry, and now I wish I had this article. I would have said, this is why, I mean, I'm not going to damage my cartilage, so, all right, so we're going to have Ben do it. Does anyone have any more quick questions? Because we're going to still talk. Oh, go ahead.
I'm a little confused when you're saying bone broth and gelatin, but then you
Well-
said gelatin not in supplements because of the.
Well, if you have a good source of your bones that are free of glyphosate, then you won't have glyphosate in that gelatin. But if you get gelatin capsules from CVS, you get whatever supplement it is you're taking from CVS, those gelatin capsules are not organic and not, the best, and you're going to get glyphosate in those capsules.
Okay, but when you were saying earlier using bone broth or gelatin.
Collagen is extracted from the bones and the ligaments that you're going to put in there, and we're going to talk about that. There's going to be lots of different, you're going to put in the breastbone. It's all collagen. It's all, a cartilage. You're going to put in chicken feet and things like that into your broth, and that's all going to be pulled into the soup. you know, that
So
you're
you're not
making.
talking like gelatin, like Jello or any? the
No,
gelatin
no,
packs
no,
like
no,
that.
I mean,
You're talking about the gelatin that's coming from the bone broth.
right,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of the talk is about chicken. Ben raises chicken. What about beef bones?
Yep, same thing
Fine.
applies. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to get, unless you are buying beef from your farmer and asking for it, it's hard to get those glossy joints. They don't sell them often in the grocery stores. So you want to get those knuckle bones, if you can, from your farmer, and put those in your soup. That's going to be the best.
I started a ranch 2 years ago, and I'm gonna have grass-fed, grass-finished beef, starting, next year, next July.
Oh, fabulous.
So that's the reason why I did it was because I became a nutritional therapist after going to Weston and meeting with
Fabulous.
those people. So I will be having grass-fed, finished bones for bone broth. I'll even have some in November. I have one going in November, so.
Awesome. Ben, do you do beef yet?
We do.
You
Yep.
do?
I have beef tonight.
Awesome.
Not to compete at all.
All right, and I have a card from Paul Spas. He does beef, and he has some available right now. He's in Chautauqua. There's cards on the table. If you are interested in getting some beef, call him up, see what he's got available still. Yeah.
I bought bones from Ben like 2 meetings ago. Matt, it was like the most gelatinous broth I've made in ever.
I believe it.
Is there any
Yeah,
problem
the
using
hard
pork?
thing with those knuckles, the shiny knuckles,
Uh-huh.
is there's only a few on a cow.
Yes.
You know, so if you're looking at an animal that's going in at 800 pounds,
Yeah.
you know, it has only a few spots where those prime
Yes.
joints are there, so they're gone pretty quick.
Yeah,
But
and oxtail is good.
oxtails.
But
yeah.
I like to combine also.
Mhm.
So I'll take chicken and beef together. I almost always do, yeah.
What about pork?
I don't see why you couldn't. I've never made a pork broth though.
We do.
His mother does
Yeah,
beef, pork, shrimp, chicken,
Yeah.
all together.
yeah, oh
And
yeah.
it's really amazing.
I bet it is. Yeah, I don't see the reason why you couldn't do anything. You've made pork broth?
Yeah, what we do is, and not to dovetail too quickly, but the one thing that was always a big, I'm just gonna move to the front now.
Yeah,
But
come on
a
up front
big
now.
thing for me that I didn't get was I always thought bone broth had to be consumed in a mug, you know, and it was like this is what you do with bone broth is you just drink it, and I didn't realize that it's silly. Like you can use it in any recipe you're using, you know, like if your gravy says put some stock in, you just have your bone broth frozen in quart-sized containers
Yeah.
or muffin tins or something, and you can just you can sneak your bone broth in everywhere you're cooking. Now, if you're getting to really high heats or boiling the heck out of it, you're going to denature it a little bit, but we use bone broth everywhere. So in our pork, for our pork, what we do is we have the pork neck bones, which is all those, you know, all the spinal column and has all those knobs and a lot of good stuff there. And we'll take a few hocks and we'll put that in our Instapot and we'll cook it down with just a few inches of water. And then we'll pour all the bones out and pick the meat, and then we make, that's how we do our meat sauce with, so then we'll add our marinara, and it just makes a real nice, I mean, it's a bone broth out of the pork bones, but you have all the meat that's been cooked down and disintegrated, and the pork skin is still on the hock, so you're getting a lot of the gelatin into there
Well,
too.
like Knox gelatin's made from pork skin. Typically, yeah. So it traditionally was, now is it anymore, I don't know, but traditionally it was always made from pork skin. So yeah, and, after you're done, we'll talk about, different ways of getting gelatin, and I do the same thing. I couldn't get my kids to drink broth in a mug all the time. Occasionally they would, but I added it to rice, I added it to even mashed potatoes, I added it to stews, it was in everything, so, okay.
Okay, so we do a lot of whole chickens, right? So this is what you get from me or from the grocery store, or wherever you're getting your chickens from. And sometimes you want to go from this into just your normal cuts, like you just need a chicken breast or some wings or something. So I'm going to show you the way we cut these up, and then as we go, I'll give you some pointers for if you're going to be using this in bone broth, right? So, and I should say, Nicole gave me plenty of heads up, and she told me about this meeting on Sunday. And I responded right away and said,
I know, that was so
I'm
awesome.
going to pull a chicken out today, and it'll be all thought out. Well, of course, like anyone who has a meatful or a freezer full of meat, the biggest thing you have to remember is pull the meat out ahead of time. So this morning I thought, I never got the chicken out. So at 4 o'clock this afternoon, I put this chicken that was as hard as a brick into just warm water, and now it's completely thawed out. So if you're like me and you just forget about getting
That's what I do
your meat
too.
out of the freezer, just put it in warm water and it'll thaw really quick. All right.
It's almost sometimes easier to cut it when it's a little,
That's true, yeah.
little,
Not quite all the way frozen. Okay, so our chickens always come with the giblets, so that would be the heart, the liver, the neck, and the gizzard in here. So the neck especially, you're going to want to keep if you're doing bone broth. Okay, there's a lot of skin there, and you have all the bones. The gizzard is also fine in your bone broth, and the heart. We don't do the liver in ours, so the liver is the one that's normally the darkest color. We find it gives a little bit of an off flavor. Some people can handle it. I can't, so I don't put up with the kids arguing. I don't like it either. So. All right. So the way I do chickens is I actually like to have, I don't use a cutting board much. I really like to use gravity, okay, because it helps me find the joints. So you really want to avoid cutting through bones. You want to try to cut where the joint is flexing. So you can see here, it's right at the base of the wing is where. So when I use my knife, I just cut right into it like that, and I'm going to move it around and get it from the front. So I'm going to come above the breast, I just come right under, and then you can get the wing right off. If you wanted to cut this further into your normal, like chicken wings, these are your wing tips. These also you definitely want to save for your broth.
Those are loaded with collagen. Throw those in.
These are awesome.
Throw those in your stock. Save them all.
And then again, here's the wing. So to get into the two typical wing joints, I'm just going to cut down to the skin, and then I just come over. You just go right between the bones. So you're just hitting the joints. Okay, so same thing on the other side. So I'm just going to, again, by holding it up, it kind of releases as you go. You know, if I had that done on the, it'd all be squishing together and you wouldn't be able to find where to go. So hold it up. It actually makes it a lot easier. So again, keep your wingtips. So when we butcher chickens, we do chickens every Friday during the summer. We might do a batch of 50 birds. I'll leave maybe 50 or 25 of them whole, and the other 25 we'll cut up. And all this stuff we save, all these little wingtips. I just have bags of wingtips, and as soon as we're done slaughtering the chickens, I'll take these in, and they just go right into my stock pot, and I'll start the bone broth for that week. So, I mean, if people want them, I pass them along, but it's, if you're at a farmer's market and you're like, I got bags of wingtips for you, it's not always a big seller, but people are catching on. So. Okay, so same thing with the legs. Okay, I'm just going to hold the leg, let the chicken fall down. I'm just going to cut this skin right in between. And then on the back, you can see this point where the two legs come together. So if you just loop under that, you're going to get a nice little nugget of meat. Now I'm going to pull it until the joint pops out. And it does that. You can just cut right through the meat. And then you have your leg quarter. So that's how we normally sell our leg quarters. Again, same thing on the other side. I'm just going to cut the skin here. Fold it back until the joint pops out. And then you can just cut under the joint.
Voila.
There you go, just like that. Okay, so now you have the chicken breast and then the back. So this is the only time when I use a big knife. You don't have to do it. You can kind of saw down like this, and then there's all the rib bones that are running along here. You can cut through those with a big kitchen knife or even a sharp paring knife. It's a whole lot easier and more fun, really, to use a cleaver. So I just went straight down right through the ribs, so you can see the ribs on either side. So straight down like that, came apart. And then you have the chicken back. So when we sell our soup packs, the way we sell it is the chicken back with the neck and then the organ meat. So It's not everything you'd want. It's not ideal. It doesn't have the wing tips. It doesn't have every single piece that you could put into bone broth, but it's a good start and it works. You know, so if we're just doing these on a pot this size, I'd probably use at least 2 of these, just like that. You know, and you can we call them little torpedoes because you can just throw them straight in frozen. You don't have to wait for them to thaw or anything like that. You can just drop them right in. All right. So now, if you wanted to split your chicken breast, you can see where everything comes together. You want to hit that part with, again, just a good chicken or a good kitchen knife, nice butcher knife. So once you get that keel bone to split, you've done the worst of the work there. Then you can just open it right up into 2 different chicken breasts. So again, this is the keel bone, and you can see how rubbery that is. So if you're grilling chicken or if you're cooking chicken, just roast it or whatever, and you can save these bones. They can go into your stock pot, or if you want to cut this off, you can just put that in raw right into your stock pot, and that's going to make your broth. All right, any questions on cutting up a whole chicken?
Where's the feet and the heads?
Feet and the heads. I have feet out in the cooler. All of that work's been done prior to this stage, right? So they also have, you know, a ton of good, you know, good collagen in there. Anytime that I'm working on doing a broth, if I have something like this, if you have a big cleaver, it's best if you can expose the insides of these bones. So if you're buying the feet, if you're buying these bones, if you have the wing tips, anything like that, and typically what people do is they cook their broth for a long period of time, 24 hours or so, and then they're going to strain it all anyways. So it doesn't, you know, anyway, what I'm getting at is I would take this cleaver and just go boom, 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 just chop it a couple good rough chops, then throw it in. By breaking open the bones and getting the exposure to the insides, yes, those minerals come out a lot easier. And you don't have to worry about the bone fragments because you're going to put it all through your strainer anyway. So it can look ugly.
And if you don't have a cleaver, I've used a hammer.
Yeah, you can use a hammer.
Is it necessary to cut the nails and stuff off?
It's not necessary. We don't do it. A lot of people do. I don't bother. Yeah.
I just clean them.
Yeah.
And that's it. I just make sure it's clean. Sometimes I will soak the feet in a salt water or salt and vinegar for maybe a couple of hours before I start my stock, or maybe the night before I'll soak them, and it kind of pulls a lot of the crap out. If they're, you know, you want them washed and scrubbed anyway, and then do that. So I brought with me some of what I use to make my broth. So this is not the pot I use, but the pot I use is I have a nice La Clochette, and I use that. It's very heavy though. I'm not bringing it. So whenever I do cook chicken, I save every bone. I always save the bones, the cartilage, the skin, any gelatin that's left over, though there's not. I save it and eat it, you know, I strain it off and eat it. So this is from a roasted chicken. I roasted a bird. It's in lots of pieces. I don't ever cook a whole bird and throw it in the pot. Like I said, you need to expose that cartilage. You need, I'm gonna steal it.
No, please. Yeah.
You need to expose, like, here is like from the breastbone, that cartilage. You want to expose that. You want to expose the glossy ends that are on the end of the, you know, the drumsticks. I'm trying to get into the habit of doing what my grandmother used to do, and she would chew off the ends of all those drumsticks and eat all that cartilage. It's good for you. It's not gonna hurt you. It doesn't taste bad. It's just we're not used to doing it. And she would sit there and gnaw on the ends of all those bones when I was growing up, and at the time I thought that was really gross. But she was doing, and she didn't even have arthritis. She died when she was 85. She didn't even have arthritis. She was always walking around great. She used to eat, make I don't know, what are the hocks, and make soups out of that all the time. Like I said, I grew up luckily consuming her broth pretty much every day. And so, yeah, so you want to expose all that. So the more you can cut it up, the better. break open. Don't ever just take one big chicken and throw it in a pot and say, "Does it turn out very well?" It won't, you know. I will either cut it up, or I usually use cooked bones, and then I have either backs or some of these soup packages that Ben sells. This is a package of feet, and I'll throw one of these in my stock. I have some heads from other chickens. The comb and the wattle is really good for stock, so we'll throw 2 of these these are little chicken heads, you know. It could be from my chickens, or they could be from ones I bought from Ben and I'm not sure. And you want to put all of that in, and then only cover it with about 2 inches of water at the most. And if you want more, to add more liquid, it's fine. You will get it to gel if you're more dense in bones and there's not too much water. If you don't get it to gel, it's okay. It's still in there. It's just not as abundant, and it's still good for you in so many different ways. If it doesn't gel, it's not as concentrated. That's all it means, I think. Yeah.
What about adding vinegar to the water to draw out?
Yes.
How much vinegar?
Yeah, it depends on the size of your pot, but I usually throw in a tablespoon or 2.
Okay.
You know, you don't need that much. And my pot it's maybe double this size.
About 5 quart?
Yeah, I think
5,
so.
6
4 or
quart?
5, yeah, I'm not sure. 5 quart sounds right.
Yeah.
And I'll throw that in. I'll put in a couple tablespoons of vinegar.
Just regular white vinegar, or does it?
It doesn't matter. I use apple cider. That's all I
Okay.
typically. Huh?
I use whey.
Yeah, anything acidic. You can use lemon juice. I throw in half a lemon. Half an organic lemon. I don't squeeze it. I just throw it in. It seems to just soften the flavor. It adds a little bit of lemon flavor. Not really. You don't taste it. It just softens it. I like it. This is an old tarragon. I have a Penzeys is the spices I like to use. This is the I have an old one I just threw in here because it was quickly easy to find. I like tarragon. I'll put a little bit of this in it. Peppercorns and some Celtic salt I use in my broth. And I also put in a bigger onion, this about half a large onion, or a medium onion quartered in my broth. And that's it. I've stopped, like you said, putting in the carrots and the celery. I don't know if it adds that much nutrition, and sometimes it can give it off flavors, especially if you've cooked it a little bit longer than you should and let it simmer.
If I do put anything in, I put it in for like maybe the last half hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't find the onion gives it off flavors, but carrots and celery can, so I've stopped doing that, and I think Nicole brought that up.
And take out the lemon if you're gonna store it overnight, like not bottle it right away.
Ah.
I left the lemon in and it gets really bitter because of the skin. So
Ah.
sometimes, it'll come off and I'll just put it in, I don't feel like dealing with it.
Yeah, right. Well, it's gotta cool anyway, so
Yeah.
take that lemon out right away. Good to know. Okay, yeah.
So you use a half a
Why
lemon?
or vinegar were going in the first place? Is that for flavor or for something else?
It helps to draw some of the minerals out of the bones.
Either vinegar or
Yeah.
lemon, either or. And
Oh,
the
no, I
acid.
do vinegar and lemon.
Oh,
the lemon
okay.
is for a flavor, yeah.
Okay.
Joe, when we do ours, we don't do anything but the water and the bones.
Okay.
At least for the first 24 hours.
Ah.
You know, so we'll do it all on low, and then especially because sometimes we'll sell stock. You know,
Yeah.
So we don't want to worry about getting ingredients.
Yeah.
You know, so then all we do is we'll just add the sea salt at the end.
Okay.
Just enough to bring the flavor
So
out.
just
And then
bones, no onion or anything either.
Nothing else at all. I mean,
Okay.
I probably should do the vinegar just for the health benefits of it. You know, but just for the sake of keeping it real simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that maybe that's one of the lessons is there's really a lot of ways to do this right.
Yes.
There's a lot of different recipes that all work, you know.
Right,
so-
and there are those recipes are in here too, so you
Right.
can try different ways of making it, which different cultures do it different ways. But yeah, I'm sure it tastes delicious.
It does, you know,
Yeah.
and then if we're doing something like what you said, where we're just consuming it for our family, you know, then we'll add all the other stuff, you know, a
Yeah.
little bit of ground ginger, you
Ah,
know, like
mhm.
ginger root and maybe a garlic, you know, something like that. That's what we do for ourselves. But
Yeah.
if it's just a basic broth, it's just chicken and water until the next day when we add salt, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we simmer ours for at least 24 hours.
24 hours.
And we have a super low burner on our stove that, like, you can't leave the window open or
Right.
But, so we get it up to, almost to a boil or to a boil, and then as soon as it does that, we turn it down
Yep.
as low as you can get it. You
Mhm.
just wanna see the water moving.
Yes.
You don't even wanna see bubbles.
Right.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, that's exactly, I don't need to be the one talking all the time. Yeah, you can do it in a crock pot, a lot of people do, you know.
Is there any advantage to it?
Hamilton Beach, roasters,
Yeah.
roasting. thing.
Yep,
Is-
yep,
Do you do, how long do you do your beef for? I know chicken's supposed to be.
less
not-
than beef. Chicken is less than
Yeah,
beef.
like-
You can do beef for 3 days.
Yeah, I do mine for 3 days, but I
Yeah.
thought chicken had to be, I couldn't remember if it
Chicken,
was.
I think after 18 hours, there's no health, you're not.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I typically do mine for 18, but I don't think it's bad to do it for 24, but I do mine for 18 hours is what I do mine for.
You
Beef,
guys-
I know you can do it for 3 days.
Do you guys get an irony flavor in chicken if you do it like 24 hours?
I do taste iron in yours.
Only if I leave the livers in.
Oh, sure. You would definitely, a lot of iron in liver, so if you leave the livers in, you will get that.
And also, do you guys, I know you bake the, you know, like when you buy the bone sections without the knuckles, you cut them in half and you roast them.
Mhm.
Does anybody roast their chicken?
Yeah, Carol does.
The bones?
Yeah.
Yeah, is there
Are
any advantage
are
to
they
that?
already cooked ones? You wouldn't
Yeah.
roast already
Yeah,
cooked
even
ones?
after, you know, we eat our chicken and,
Uh-huh.
and she'll save them like that, freeze them.
I always
Put
thought
them in the oven and roast them a little
Roast them
bit.
again, okay. I don't do that. It's for flavor more than anything, but go ahead, you were.
That's basically.
Oh, yeah. You know, in some, like beef bones, I always roast them for flavor first, and then, put them in the stock. So sometimes, if I'm low on chicken, I'll add some beef and roast those first, and then, you know, maybe for an hour at 350, and that's it, and then throw them in the stock.
I also do, 2 batches. I do it for 3 days, and then I add more, you know, after I take it off and do it.
I've tried
again.
that, I'm not very successful, it's so watery, I'm not, you know, but.
Well, I add a few fresh
You
bones,
add
not as
fresh,
many, but I
okay.
figure that at that point, those bones are like crumbling.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that, well, I've heard that you can do it that way, so that's what I've done. But it is a little bit different, the second batch, but
Mhm.
I get like 7 quarts each time I do it.
That's
so.
fantastic, yeah, does it gel?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's it.
If you're sharing your broths with your dog, make sure you don't make it with
With onion, right, exactly. Though, I do, and I have like a half an onion in there, it never seems to bother them, you know?
I
it's-
have in a pinch, and
Uh-huh.
it's never bothered her. but
Right.
I also have made broth just for her,
Uh-huh,
and then I just freeze it
Yeah.
in ice cube container, and then
Ah.
put it into a bag, and then whenever I feel she needs the extra boost, I
Yeah.
just pull out a cube.
yeah. Yeah, I know onions are bad for dogs, but I've never had a problem giving and I don't put a lot in, and it's not like it's onion soup, it's just a half an onion. It adds a teeny bit of flavor to the broth that I like, and I've always shared it with my dogs, and I've never had a problem with that little bit of onion. I know Diane would scream, but it doesn't seem to bother
And
them.
some dogs have more of a sensitivity to
Sure.
certain things than
Sure.
others.
Yeah.
I'm curious, if you were to take the bones and you were grind them up into like a powder and then start making the broth with that, would that be more beneficial because you get more of the nutrients out? Or, I mean, would that not work because the bones have to be somewhat dry and stuff to grind them to powder?
I think it would probably, you would get some benefit out of it, but I don't know if it would be more beneficial. I mean, you're gonna.
Then you don't have to cook it as long, I'm thinking maybe.
How would you grind them?
That's the thing, that was my next question. How do you
Yeah.
Because
I
you
mean,
mentioned that earlier.
You got a nice big mortar and pestle and stone, you can do it, and that's what people used to do, some cultures used to do, but,
Maybe your blend tech.
Yeah, blend tech.
Yes.
I actually came here to ask this one question, which was, I cannot stand the smell of chicken cooking at night. I can't sleep if there's chicken broth going.
Really, I love this smell. I walk into the house and I'm like, oh,
I
this
love
is
to
good.
eat it, but I can't stand the smell, and I can't stand the smell of beef cooking. So I've switched to the Instapot, but it's not, I don't know if it's big enough, I don't skim it, that's my question, is about skimming the fat and the yuck.
Right, if you put in, when you put in cooked bones, you don't need to skim as much. If you have, and I'll add some raw, like, feet and wingtips, and sometimes I'll buy chicken wings and just throw those in, and like I said, the heads. And I don't get that much scum, and you can't obviously, what's it called again?
Instant pot.
It's like a pressure cooker basically. And you can't skim that, you know, but if you've got a lot of cooked bones in there, you don't need to skim as much. And when the conference was here about 8 years ago, I went to the broth lecture, and I don't remember her name who gave it. And some people asked about pressure cookers, and she says that it damages the proteins, it damages the collagen. I'm sure you're getting some benefit, but not as much. And also she said you should not can it. You should not, that damages the proteins and collagen in the broth also. So
Is there, what do you experts do? Do you just put it on your stove, or do you crock pot?
I use the stove, you know.
Stove too.
It's just like real simple and works.
Yeah.
And what about, let's say I can't stand the smell at night. I've heard people say they turn it off at night, put it in the fridge, and start it the next day. Is there any?
Yeah, you don't even have to put it in the fridge. Just leave it on the stove.
Leave it on the stove.
And in the winter, if you really want to, I have a back hall. I throw it in the back hall. It's my spare refrigerator in the wintertime. You know, so, you know, yeah.
Freezing is okay though, right?
Yes, you can definitely freeze it. I do. I put it into different size containers, and I do the same thing that Ben does. I have small containers that I throw it in, and that's what goes in my rice. And then when I'm making chicken fricassee, and you know, it calls for stock, and I get it in all sorts of ways. So did I get my boys to drink it all the time? No, but I put it in a ton of stuff. But they luckily loved gravy, and all gravy was to us was the drippings from a roasted chicken, and maybe some water added to that pan when I first started. And that gels up like thick. You can cut it when it cools, that gelatin that comes out. And my kids just poured it on everything, and they ate the skin, and they fight for the skin in my house. You know, there's no skin left, basically. They fight for it all. So it's good stuff, you know, but you put it into smaller containers. You can put it into muffin tins and pop them out once they freeze, and then throw them in a plastic bag. And you've got little sizes if you want little sizes. It's great to have that convenience of having all different sizes of cooked broth ready at your disposal.
Is there a threshold temperature where you begin to damage?
I think so, and I don't know exactly what that number is, but I keep mine at between like 180 and 200 degrees at the very most. I liked it to simmer. I think any more than like 180, 90 degrees, it's starting to bubble too much. You want to simmer, not boil it for 18 hours or 24 hours. You want it to simmer. So it's below boiling.
So if you're doing rice then, typically I would bring whatever I'm cooking rice into a quick boil.
Yes, and then simmer it for a couple minutes. That's what I do. I let it come to a boil, and then I put it right down to a simmer, and then I just shut it off after 6 minutes, put the lid on, and walk away, and a half hour later my rice is perfect. So yeah, you're really not you know, you could accidentally, like I had broth today, and I put it on the stovetop, and I walked away and did a couple things, and it's like, oh my God, it's bubbling, you know, and that's fine. I mean, it's prolonged boiling. I let it boil for 2 minutes, and I had to wait a while before I could drink it, but that's okay. I mean, I don't think you're gonna do too much damage yet. So.
I've also just turned it on low and walked away.
Yeah.
I think eventually gets up warm enough.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, and I thought it was on low enough, then you walk away and do a load of laundry and, you know.
That's just something, like I'll throw it in, but I'm low, walk out the house and come back and, you know.
Oh, it is.
So it's like I don't tend to it. I just put it on and leave.
Oh, yeah.
How long have you kept it in the fridge?
In the fridge about a week. I want to consume it within a week, you know, so.
And you said that you shouldn't can it. When you say canning, do you mean like Campbell soup cans, or do you mean like mason jar canning?
Mason jar canning, where you put it in a big pot and boil it for 45 minutes to seal it, you know.
Oh, okay.
That kind of canning is damaging to the collagen and proteins in there.
Okay, because I also have a food saver where I could just pour it in and put it in mason jars and just vacuum all the air out.
That's fine. That's fine. It's the actual canning process of cooking it for that long period of time is supposedly not. At least that's what this woman at the Weston Price conference said a few years. She says it's too damaging to the proteins.
Okay, what about freezing? Is there a certain duration time where that freezes too long and it'll damage it too? Or?
Not that I know of, but I'm sure. I mean, most food within a year or two is not going to be quite the same as good.
Okay.
Some, you know, like I found that pork doesn't last as long as chicken and beef in the freezer. So yeah, you know, but I think if you used it up within a year, it would be fine.
Yeah, I like the ice cube idea that someone said.
Yeah, it's great, like get those metal large muffin tins too, I've done that, and, and then just popped them out and threw them in the freezer,
And I second the rice thing. I'm Asian, so I eat a lot of rice. So yeah, I actually don't use water at all. I pour just the rice stock in. Or, I mean, chicken stock.
Yeah.
Turkey stock tastes the best.
Oh yeah, make turkey stock too, right? That is very good. Yep.
This is a equipment question. Anybody have one of those strainers that fits right in the pot and you're just like, is it worth it?
I don't have one. I don't have one. I have one.
Oh.
Yeah, but the one I have is the holes are a little bit big, so I don't think, like, it's not like the, like a really tight.
Yeah.
So I literally like skim it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you wanna spend the money, it's expensive, but if you buy one for life, I guess. Williams-Sonoma has All-Clad, which has a screen one. It's actually like a screen door screen, and that's pretty cool.
At Vidler's, I got disposable stock bags, and they're just like a netting, and it was a package of 3, I don't know, it was like $3 or something, but it's just a netting kind of thing with a tie, and you throw everything in there, and then you put that in your water. So when you need to, when it's all over and done with, you just pull the bag out and throw it away.
That's interesting. Is it cloth? It's not plastic, is it?
No, it's not plastic.
Wow, very interesting.
Could you do a cheesecloth?
Yeah,
It's like a type of
similar to
cheesecloth.
yeah.
Wow, very interesting. So let it drip and drain, and then
Is there any way of getting collagen without using any products?
Nope, not that I know of. I think they can produce it from algae, and that's what some capsules are made from, but otherwise, nope, you've gotta use an animal to get that, you need your body can make collagen without giving it the ingredients, but not well and not efficiently.
Yeah, and
It's conditionally essential. It's not those amino acids, the glycine, proline, and alanine, and hydroxyproline are not essential. They're conditionally essential, meaning you will make some, but you will not make it efficiently, and especially as you age, you will not make enough, and you will be much healthier if you provide those amino acids and give your body the substrates to make it.
So that's actually what you're getting from the bone broth is amino acids.
Well, that's part of it. Those are the amino acids that are in collagen. And then there's also proteoglycans in there also, those protein sugar things, the glucosamine and the chondroitins and hyaluronic acid, those sort of things are also in there. And you can buy them as supplements, but it's very expensive, and I don't know about the quality, and I'm not sure when you put things in powder form if they are as bioavailable as if you get it right from the source. I don't know. I've not seen studies on it. It's possible, but I don't know. And you're taking a pill this big, or you can drink a mug of broth. How much are you getting? I'm not sure, but I think it's better to get the broth. Not that you shouldn't supplement. Let's say you're having major issues. I would supplement with gelatin. I would buy, the Great Lakes is a really good source, Great Lakes gelatin. It comes in a powder. It doesn't taste good. It kind of smells a little off, but it's really good quality gelatin. And if I was going to buy any, that's what I would buy.
Instead of the Knox gelatin?
Yeah.
Can you use it instead of that? I was gonna ask about Knox.
Well, I'm not talking about making Jell-O.
Right.
But if I was
as a
going to
thickener.
supplement with gelatin because maybe, I have osteoarthritis or something and I needed more, I would take Great Lakes gelatin.
Can you use it to gel a recipe of
I
something?
suppose you could.
Yeah.
I suppose you could. I don't see why not.
Right now I use Knox, but obviously that's probably something.
It's probably not the best right now because of the glyphosate issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if that's organic, the Great Lakes?
Yes, as far as I know, it's from grass-fed animals.
And where do you get it? At Wegmans or what?
Amazon.
and then there's other, like, Radiant Life has it, I believe, and probably, but I've seen it on Amazon for sure.
I did want to say one thing.
Yeah.
You're talking about getting it from other sources. From the doctors I've talked to, if you don't have high doses of vitamin C in your
yes.
system, your E, and your A, and there's one other one. Is it magnesium? No, maybe, I don't think it's magnesium. There's something else. Your body has to have a constant source of vitamin C to make collagen.
Yes, I meant to mention that and I forgot, so I'm glad you brought it up. You need vitamin C also to make collagen. It's part of how it's made. So, you don't have to take a supplement, but if you're not eating a lot of fresh fruits, pasteurization kills vitamin C. So, orange juice isn't going to be good unless it's fresh and not pasteurized. And if you eat a lot of different vegetables and stuff, yeah, you'll get some. But I personally do supplement with vitamin C.
I'm not positive of this, so I'm a little reluctant to say it, but is it true that you can't even your body's ability to take up collagen, even if you ingest it, is you have low vitamin A and vitamin C is limited as well, correct?
I don't know about the A. It's possible. I mean, it's possible that you need a decent amount of vitamin C. I'm not sure about that. I've not read that anywhere. But it makes sense.
Somehow I'm thinking it, but I'm not sure I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I have a question, but just to comment on the vitamin C, again, having a collagen defect, for one thing that physically I can feel the biggest benefit from was when I was diagnosed with starting to take the vitamin C.
Uh-huh.
It was the first thing they were told to do, and it really, it makes a huge difference. But that being said, my question was, just talking about earlier, just kind of referenced again, the amino acids, and if we're getting muscle meat and as opposed to other parts of the animal. And my question is, I've been told that when you eat meat, you're getting a complete protein because you're getting all the amino acids. Is that not true if you're just eating lean meat?
But it's very low in those other proteins. Very, very low.
It's
and
there, but
it's not abundant in it. And it's abundant in the skin, in the joints, and the tendons, and the ligaments, and the cartilage. So you're not getting enough.
Okay. Could you do, another off topic, but could you do a broth just using, say you just did a cook below with chicken wings? Could you actually make a broth just using wing tips
Sure.
or whatever?
Your leftover bones?
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
I didn't read that article that you said was in Wise Traditions. Did they recommend, like, if it was conventionally raised meat, do they recommend even making broth out of that?
They don't. They don't recommend making broth out of conventionally raised meat.
So it just
to try and get grass-fed meat. Yes.
You were saying just put like a small amount of water in so you didn't even cover the bone?
Oh yeah, I do. I cover the bones by like an inch or two at the most.
Okay.
Yes.
What about adding water if it cooks off? Or do you just put the lid on right away?
I have a lid that has a little hole in it actually on the top, so it lets a little steam out so I never bubble over, but I will sometimes add water back to it, but then it won't gel as much, and that's okay though, yeah.
I cook different kind of soups all the time, but I've never cooked a bone, just straight bone broth before, and I was actually looking into it for my daughter.
Uh-huh.
She's 9 months old and she's got a lot of health issues.
Oh, okay.
So I made my poor husband eat all different kind of chicken this whole week so I could save the bones.
Oh, right.
And I wasn't sure I was doing it right, and
chicken
then I saw
today.
this class. Yeah, I'm like, we're having chicken all week. But then I came across, so my whole fridge is bone good. I came across an article about like if the chicken's not, I got all organic, but I saw that if they're organic, they can have, I don't know, all sorts of, like if they were sick or if there's lead or contamination or something.
I read that article on the lead in chickens, and Sally Fallon and Wise Traditions kind of pulled that study apart a little bit. And the gist of it is there were a bunch of chickens tested somewhere in England, and that they feel that there was probably lead in the soil because they had more lead in their skin than they actually had in the bones themselves. So that would be from dusting. They incorporated the soil, into their skin and got lead into their skin. And so there was some lead in those chickens. So there was this like, oh, well, making broth isn't good for you, you're going to get lead. The amount of lead that was in them was still less than what is allowed in drinking water. So it's still not, but you don't want any lead. But then they tested some organically raised chickens in California, and there was none no lead. So I really do think, now that was, Western Price Foundation did that. They tested some chickens, not this other group. And this other group of people from England, the chickens that they got that they said were organic, I'm sure they are organic, but the soil that they were raised on could have been contaminated 200 years ago, and it's hard to say, you know. These California chickens, when they tested them and the broth that made from them, there was no lead in it. So.
Yeah, because my daughter has a thing where she doesn't really detox. So that's why I didn't know.
Yeah.
For us, it's different, but for 9-month-old, I wasn't
So
sure.
just know where your source is from. You know, there are, I guess, the East Coast has got more lead in it than the West Coast does. You know, so but what can you do? You live here. You know, so.
Is it not true that, you know, talking of heavy metals like lead, that most commercially raised grain also have traces of arsenic that ends up in almost all the meat supply, which is just as bad or worse than lead. So
I don't
it's
do
kind of
like
like
rice or anything like that.
you
The
got,
arsenic and stuff.
Calcium helps bind to lead supposedly too at the same time. So I mean, as long as she's getting some calcium through dairy and
Yeah, I'm so nervous.
yeah, you know, it'll help
And
bind
she
to
can't have
lead.
dairy. She has she can't have dairy and she can't have soy.
I worked for the health department and we had kids that were poisoned, and somehow or other they started giving, we heard there was a study where if you give little amounts of liver each day, and their kids went from being poisoned down to normal. It was unheard of.
Lead poisoning?
Yeah, lead poisoning.
Really?
In Niagara County. And the thing is I thought, I was going every meeting, every month, and these kids, it was never good. They were being chelated, they were doing, and they never improved, never. And all of a sudden, this one mom started feeding it liver, and it went down, and so the nurse started recommending, and all the mothers that did that, their children's lead level went down to normal.
Just by giving them liver?
Yeah, well it binds, it's the same thing.
it kind of makes sense, because that
Yeah.
would be like the enzymes are acting like a chelating agent,
Yeah.
because that's how the liver works anyhow.
Formula recipe, don't you use a little bit of liver?
I think there is some liver in that formula. I haven't looked at that in a long time. Does anyone know the Weston Price?
Desiccated liver in it.
Yeah. So get the best quality source you can, you know, and maybe try that.
I mean, granted, make meatballs, it works, my grandson loves them.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yum.
Isn't liver a filter?
It is, but it's not, the toxins are not stored in the liver. So, I mean, there may be some trace amounts of toxins, if it's a conventional even, but it's not stored there. It's filtered through it.
It's filtered, and when you cook it, whatever's left might disappear.
Oh, well, no, not
Maybe
necessarily,
no.
not necessarily, but toxins are often stored in fat, you know. So, but the liver doesn't store it; it filters it and cleans it.
Okay.
I think it's worth saying that organic chicken is not the same as a pasture-raised chicken from, a person you know.
Right.
You can see where they're literally out to pasture.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
very
buy
different,
an
like,
organic chicken at the grocery store, but it could be, just in a huge warehouse with 5,000 other chickens and not getting a bit of sunshine. And I would prefer, the grass-fed chicken over that organic conventional chicken still,
Yeah, a lot of times they'll say they're vegetarian.
Yeah, and chickens are not vegetarians. They eat each other. You throw in a snake or a mouse, and they attack.
When they say Amish raised chickens, what does that imply?
Amish raised?
Or Amish.
Well, that maybe somebody Amish raised it, but that doesn't mean
anything.
more. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, what was that recently? It was a dog food commercial. It's farm-raised chicken. Yum. Farm-raised chicken, the dog is saying. And I'm like, farm-raised chicken, what does that mean? A conventional factory farm? Sure. I hate that commercial, yes.
I understand that grass-fed is the best, and then for the chicken, and then organic is probably the second, but I'm curious, how bad would it be if you just bought a non-organic chicken and did a bone broth with that?
I always tell people to do what you can, because some people say, I can't afford to get organic and grass-fed. I would still do it. and I would do, conventional chicken. I've always been, there are those who would say, no, it has to be organic. Well, but some people cannot do that. And I would still think it's going to give you some benefit, at least, to be eating that way, and it's better for you.
Yeah, because like you were saying, most of the toxins are not in the bones necessarily, they're in the fats.
Right. So you may want to skim off some of that fat. It will leach into your broth, though, but if you maybe get rid of some of the fat before you cook it,
What about the Roundup and the collagen though? See, that's
Yeah, I know, and this is like, oh my God, we're getting complicated now, but still, I would still do it. I would.
Well, I did it.
I would. I would still do it. I know that the Roundup is bad, but I would still do it.
I'm just curious, has anybody here, I've done it twice, thinking the first time was some kind of weird food. Have anybody used deer bones successfully? Does it always taste horrible?
I have not.
I like deer meat, and normally it's
Yeah.
totally fine, but I tried to make
It
broth
turned
out
out
of
really bad.
It was just
Nasty.
It tastes like the fat.
Like liver, cause it's over, that's what venison tastes like when it's overcooked.
Overcooked,
Yeah, it's got that
it
minerally
just-
kind of.
Yeah, it gets nasty tasting. It
Yeah, so
loses
don't-
its tenderness.
I've done it twice and
Yeah.
no success at all.
The organic chicken fat you can eat though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I left it in my gravy the other day.
Yeah.
So good. So, that's good. It was delicious.
Do I what?
Skin your chicken fat off?
No, I don't need
No.
to skim.
Scum.
Oh, you mean the fat? No, I don't. I eat the fat.
Yeah. The scum.
The scum, I'll skim if I
Yeah,
have
Some
it.
people like with the beef broth creates so much.
Yes, I would definitely would if I would. Yeah.
With the beef.
Yeah. And then there's recipes that will call for clarified chicken, and it means you want to skim off that fat.
Yeah.
Well, then if that's what your recipe calls for. If you're doing Julia Childs, and sometimes she does call for that. Yeah.
Ghee, right? Ghee is clarified. Well,
But
it's
the
not really,
clarified
yeah,
stock
but
is like when you. I don't know if there's other ways of
Take
doing
up
it.
the
Taking
fat
all the
solids.
fat for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Some people prefer it that way, and it doesn't matter. It's up to you.
Yeah.
So. Any questions? Anyone?
I just want to ask, you said a lot of taxes go to the fat. What about the organic pigs? That's it. I mean, they're obviously better fed.
Yeah.
But they eat the bacon, which I really like.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the toxins are not like the ones on non-organic
Right,
pigs.
exactly. We have
Okay.
so many toxins in our environment.
Yeah, I mean, you breathe it.
It's everywhere. This country is one of the worst. We don't disallow something unless it's been around for 50 years and proven to cause cancer. You have to prove it's safe in Europe before it's allowed into the environment. Here, it's
Just whatever,
everything.
it's a free for all.
Thousands of chemicals are allowed into our food supply and in our environment that are not allowed in Europe.
Yeah, exactly.
So learning ways of detoxing isn't a bad idea. I'm not an expert on it at all, though. So.
Oh, and that glyphosate test is actually 125. I looked at it, it's not 100, but still, that's worth it.
Yeah.
It's a urine test too, so it's easy to do.
Yeah, and you can do it in New York State.
They say I think you gotta mail it out of another state, but
Yeah.
it's not hard to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Awesome.
When we go.
All right, so remember the 24th of next month. Tell your friends.
The information in this lecture is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to substitute for the advice provided by your doctor or other healthcare professionals. You should not rely upon or follow the program or techniques or use any of the products and services made available by or through the lecture without obtaining the advice of a physician or other healthcare professional. The nutritional and other information in this lecture are not intended to be and do not constitute healthcare or medical advice.